So somebody called the cops on me. They said I was looking in these bushes, which I was looking in these bushes because I was trying to figure out what we've got to tackle here. Police showed up yesterday, pulled in here, asked me what I was doing. I introduced myself to him. I said, hey, I'm just trying to check this out for the owner and see if I can get it cleaned up. So, oh man, always something, right? I don't know, probably a neighbor, whoever saw me over here and wonder what I was up to. But anyways, this is what we're going to tackle today. So going to get the Ventrac out here. The owner's actually going to come over and help cut out some of the tall stuff, and we're going to get this cleaned up for him. He owns this property back in here, and it's a really nice area, but as you can see along the drive, as you pull in, everything's kind of hanging over. So he wants it taken out, cleaned up, looking nice. So get the Ventrac out here, get started, see what we can do. Alright guys, so I'm going to kind of walk you through this job, tell you what it is and what it isn't. So the customer wanted me to basically take out all of this brush right here. His main focus was just getting it taken down, and then he was going to come back and kind of clean it all up. So I told him I can get in here and I can get pretty much anything that is 1.5 inches in diameter and less. Anything bigger than that, it's going to have to be cut out. So went ahead and told him that first thing, and he was good with that. He said, hey, get in here and knock down whatever you can. I'll come in here and I'll cut out what needs to be cut out, and we'll just kind of go from there. So he's just now showing up. He has the Milwaukee pole saw, which worked really good on this project, and he's just basically getting in there and cutting stuff down so I can run over it with the Ventrac, because it was getting to the point where everything is so tall and it's leaning over and it's hanging over so much. I couldn't even get in there with the machine because everything was just hanging in my face and on top of me. And so he basically came in there with the Milwaukee pole saw, started cutting everything down, you know, something that, or anything that was like of size or something that was, you know, hanging over. He just went in there and tried to cut it all out. So that's basically what he's doing right now. He's pulling everything out, cutting it down so I can run over it with the Ventrac. Then I'm having to get off every now and then and pull it out so I can run over it with the Ventrac. But just a lot of back and forth, man. He's in there. You can't even tell like what you're getting into. Like I told him, you know, I said, hey, I'm not really sure what I can get, you know, with the Ventrac until I get in there and just start cutting, because this stuff is so thick, we can't even see what's in there. There's vines, there's brush, there's just anything and everything grown up in there. And so we're just kind of going a little by little and seeing what we run into and just kind of tackling it as we approach it. So that's kind of the game plan going into this. So again, I'm on the Ventrac here. I'm running over everything. I'm trying to get in as deep as I can, but it's just not possible. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and go over everything that he's sawed down, and he's working in another area right now while he's allowing me to get out here and chop everything up that he's kind of sawed down. So if I was doing this by myself, I probably would have approached it a little differently, but he offered to cut the big stuff out so I could run over it with the Ventrac, and he wasn't really worried about the tall, the thick stuff, I should say. He was just going to basically pile the thicker stuff up and burn it because he has a pretty big property here. So my only, you know, thing to do was just to take out all the smaller brush, like 1.5 inches or less. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just going around trying to knock it all down, and then, like I said, running over it once it's pulled out a little bit. But it was so hard to get in here and to tackle this job, mainly because you just didn't know what you were getting into. I mean, this stuff is so thick, I'm just kind of going into it blind right now. And if I hit something, then I know, well, it's too thick. And so I would just nose in there until I hit something, and then I would back up and kind of go over everything that's kind of laying on the ground. But the thick stuff, the stuff that the Ventrac would not chop down, I basically had to leave and let him come back and cut it with the Milwaukee pole saw. He also had a little Milwaukee pruner saw. I don't know what you call it, but it's probably an 8 or 9 inch saw, and it worked really well. He used that the majority of the time. So I'm just cruising through here and just kind of nosing in. Occasionally the debris would get on the belt and it would pop it off because I was so deep in that mess. I couldn't tell what I was doing. And the limbs, the debris, everything would get kind of mingled up on top of that Tough Cut deck, and then I would have to hop off and put the belt back on. The belt was super loose. I'm surprised I was able to get in here and actually do this job because that belt was so loose. I actually told him, I said, I'm probably going to have to leave, come back, and get a new belt because the belt just, I had so many issues with it coming off because it was so loose and so stretched out. So I did what I could. Obviously came over to this side and tried to push everything into the middle while he's somewhere in the mess, in all this mess, cutting some thicker stuff or the stuff hanging over. Basically the whole time I'm going through here doing all this, I can't even see him. I don't even know where he's at or where he ended up. I'm trying to look for him, trying to be careful and cautious and keep an eye out for him. But honestly, going through all this mess, it's a lot thicker than it looks. If you were up close to it, you wouldn't be able to see much at all. But the Ventrac's just eating through it. All this smaller stuff has no problem with. Again, when I get to the thicker stuff, that's when we have the issues. This deck is about 68, 69 inches wide. And so every time I'm nosing in, if you will, I'm trying to figure out if there's anything on either side that I'm going to hit, whether it's a stump. I don't know what's in there. I'm hoping I don't hit like metal or wire or a stump. And thankfully, I don't think I really hit any of that stuff. So it was pretty clean for the most part. But just nosing in there, doing what I can, and then he's already cut some of this stuff that's laying on the road right here, and then I'm making my way down to that so I can kind of go over it in the road, which worked out well. There's not a lot of people that live back in here, so no one actually came through the whole time we were doing this job, which was very surprising. And we were keeping our eye out, but not a lot of people live back in here anyways. So I wanted to try to keep this road halfway clean, and then if somebody needed to get by, I could just hop off, grab my blower, blow it off real quick, and, make sure it was nice and clean. But, again, wanted to keep this road pretty clean, but it was so hard to do that, man. It just, he's in there cutting, laying stuff down, and I'm just continuing to go over it. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. I'll go ahead and let you watch a little bit of this. I'll quit talking, and, I'm taking a video right now because he's in there. You can barely see him. I don't know if you can even see him or not, but he's in there, and he's cutting right there. He's cutting this little tree down, but it was like that the whole time. I mean, he was trying to wiggle his way in there, get in there to where the brush was at to cut it. It was a mess. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have even able to do all this. I wouldn't have been able to do it because it was just too much. For one person, I would have gotten off the Ventrac like constantly, cutting stuff, then hopping on the Ventrac and knocking stuff down. The bad part about it is whenever you get in there and you knock stuff down, it doesn't chop it up as well. So everything laying on the ground right here, if it's sticking up a little bit where the blades are going to hit it, it's going to cut it up a lot better. But if it's laying completely flat on the ground, it doesn't chop it up as well. So you'll see in the end some debris left over, which that was we knew that was going to happen. I mentioned, to him that there'll be a lot of debris left over. It's not going to cut everything. It's not like a mulcher. It's not going to mulch it up, but it's going to cut up a lot of it. I mean, look at this huge pile of brush. It was massive pile of brush. and you'll be amazed here at the end what it looks like when I got done. But anyways, just rolling through it. That log obviously is way too big to cut for the Ventrac. If it's over 1.5 inches, it's not going to cut it. So I got to hop off here and basically trying to move like the bigger stuff, the bigger logs, limbs. We have to move those out of the way so the Ventrac can get down there and chew up or chop up some of that smaller stuff. So that's what I'm doing here, but you'll see that throughout the video. He's cutting stuff down. I'll have to get off the Ventrac and pull the bigger stuff out just so that I can get to the smaller stuff to chop it all up. So just want to explain all that. You know, if you're watching the video, you're probably like, why is he doing this or why is he doing that? There's a lot of different reasons why I did what I did and why he's doing what he's doing. If I could do it all over again, we would not have cut as much down. As you can see on this side, he's cut a whole lot down. So there's a lot of thick stuff in this particular area, and it's too much. It's just too much for the Ventrac. It's not going to be able to get in there and cut up all that big stuff, and so I can't even get down to the smaller stuff. So here in a minute, he's going to have to come over here, and he's going to have to cut up all this thicker stuff so we can just haul it off. And there we had like 2 different places where we dumped or we piled up all these bigger, thicker limbs that the Ventrac couldn't handle. So there is a pile. You'll kind of see it at the end. I didn't get a good shot of it, but there is a decent pile left over. But for the most part, man, the Ventrac was able to handle pretty much all of this. It's pretty amazing. And you'll see that here at the end of the video. You'll just see just how much the Ventrac was able to tackle. So he's coming over. There's his Milwaukee pruner that I was talking about. Works really well for stuff like this, little 8 or 9 inch pruner, and he's cutting all the thicker stuff so I can move it out of the way so I can get all that smaller stuff that's under that pile. So he's going back and forth cutting. I'm dragging the limbs off. So it's a process. It's taken a while to do all this. It's not fast work. It's definitely one of those jobs where you have to be super patient on because it's a lot. It's a lot to it. You got to just look at one little area at a time. I mean, this whole job took probably 7 hours. And, you know, see right there, he's taking a pretty good-sized tree down. Some of these trees were 4, 5, and even 6 inches in diameter. I think that was probably the biggest tree that we had to cut out, or he had to cut out. He cut most of it, 4, 5, 6 inches. So, you know, he's just working through there, cutting it all out. And again, I'm going to hop on the Ventrac here, and you'll see me trying to clean up all the smaller stuff. He's still cutting. So he's back and forth like the whole time, cutting stuff, trying to pull it out. There were so many vines and so much junk in here that it was so hard to pull it out because he would cut and then he would try to pull the stuff out, and there was anything and everything grabbing a hold of it. So it was just so hard. You're going through there. He's trying to pull it out. I'm trying to nose in there and cut it, not knowing what I'm getting into. And a lot of these trees that he had to cut them kind of high because he couldn't get down low to cut the trees because there was just so much debris in there. So basically, I'm just hoping that I don't hit one of the stumps, you know, where he's cut some of those trees out. So here's where I start making a little bit more progress, pulling this stuff out a little bit because it's too tall and it's hanging over, and I can't get to the base of it. So that was like the whole problem on most of this, is that I couldn't get down to the base of all this material. So I basically had to bend stuff over or pull stuff out so the Ventrac could go over it. But I'm going to quit talking and let you watch a little bit of this, and let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think so far of this job. Is it just ridiculous? Should I not even have tried it with the Ventrac? Or how do you think things are going so far? So once I got back over to this side, I was a little overwhelmed because all of the trees and brush and everything that he had cut down, I was like, oh, wow. There's no way the Ventrac is going to be able to get through all this. Just way too much laying on the ground. But I just went through there little by little, taking out little chunks at a time, and just seeing what the Ventrac could handle. Going forward, backing up is the best bet. You don't want to take on too much material, too much debris. Then you want to back up and kind of see what you've tackled and see if there's anything in the way. And so that's basically why I go forward and back so much. A lot of guys ask in the comments, why are you backing up so much? And that's the reason. You got to take little bites at a time with this Ventrac, especially if you're getting to a lot of heavy brush like this is. And so just basically going back and forth, and taking little bites at a time, seeing what's there, seeing if there's anything that I need to avoid, and it just helps out a whole lot. So going back over this stuff that's laying on the ground, trying to knock out some of this stuff that he has piled up, and it was a huge pile. The video doesn't even do it justice how much debris was piled up there. I honestly thought at this point there's no way the Ventrac can get through that. But like I said, little by little, taking little bites at a time, eventually I was able to get through it. So at this point, there's pretty much nothing else I can do on this side. Everything's too thick. So got to go over to the other side, and he's actually cutting on the bigger stuff, throwing it in a pile. I'm trying to help him pull stuff out. And I'm basically stacking all this bigger stuff up in a brush pile over here so I can get the Ventrac in there. At this point, I can't even get the Ventrac in there. So there's quite a few trees that we cut out. Quite a few bigger limbs that we have to move, and once we get all this cleaned out, all the big stuff cleaned out, then I can get the Ventrac in there and clean out the smaller stuff. Now we're to the point where we're going to start to see a little bit more progress. There for a while, just cutting stuff out, piling it up, man, it takes so much time, and for two people, running through it, it takes a lot of time. So we spent quite a bit of time just stacking stuff up. As you can see, kind of in the left-hand side over there, back in the background, you see a little bit of a pile that has started, and that's all the big, thick stuff that the Ventrac's just not going to be able to handle. So piled it up over there, and now the Ventrac's going through here and eating up whatever it can. So this mess right here was super hard to even see what you were doing. It was so thick, so just grown up that he's just in there just kind of trying to saw whatever he can touch, and hopefully something will fall over, and I'm coming like behind trying to pull stuff out. So it was like took forever just in this one little area, cutting stuff out, pulling stuff out. So the owner had to leave several times during this job for various reasons. So I'm to the point right now I'm where I can't do anything else with this Ventrac. There's so much thick stuff in there that needs to be pulled out and cut up. So I'm basically going in there with the pole saw, trying to feel around, trying to cut these thicker pieces so I can pull them out so I can get the Ventrac in there. So that's what I'm doing right here, just going in with the pole saw, trimming what I can, and then trying to pull a few things out so I can attempt to tackle this overgrown mess with the Ventrac. I basically try to go around this entire mess right here and try to hit it from every angle that I can, but the problem is this stuff is so tall, it's hanging over so much, I can't get to the base of all this stuff. So I'm basically going around in a circle trying to push this stuff over, trying to get in there to the base, and not being very successful at all. So here in a minute you'll see me just hop off the Ventrac and go back to the pole saw. I'm going in with the pole saw now and trying to basically cut this stuff in half or thirds, just where it will fall a little bit, where the Ventrac can get in there and cut it all up. Because at this point, the Ventrac can't even touch the base of any of this stuff. So cutting it all up, and it's falling down just enough to get the Ventrac in there and let it do its thing. At this point, it is 3:30 in the afternoon. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch, and so the customer just shows up from wherever he went, and he's handing me some lunch. So very thankful for that. It's 3:30. I haven't ate anything all day, and he shows up with some lunch. I'm almost done at this point, but I'm like, hey, if you got some lunch, I'll definitely take it. So put a comment below if you're still watching this. Let me know what you think I had for lunch. It was good. First time ever trying this, but it was good. Definitely hit the spot, and yeah, I definitely am super thankful that he took time to bring me back some lunch. He said, hey, I tried texting you, tried calling you. I didn't get a hold of you. I didn't know what you wanted for lunch, but I brought this back to you. I hope it's okay. I said, hey, I was in the zone. I was trying to get this stuff knocked out. I'm almost done at this point. I want to get this done, get out of here, and get back home. So I didn't even notice that he called or texted or anything like that. So yeah, thanks again for the lunch. And like I said, comment below. Let me know what you guys think I had for lunch today. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get all this brush cut down and out of the way so the owner can come in here and cut this tree down. There's a tree right there in the middle. I don't know if you can see it. It's so grown up and so yeah, just wild. There's a tree in there though, and it's pretty good size. I mean, it's over 20 feet tall, pretty decent tree, and you know, in the midst of all this brush. And so trying to get as close as I can to it, he's actually already notched this thing out, which I wasn't really happy about and wasn't super comfortable being around that thing because the wind's blowing like crazy. I'm pushing vines and everything up against it, and the vines are actually holding this thing up, I think. So he's about to come in here in a minute and attempt to cut this tree down. And I'm going to tell you this. You're going to have to just stick around and watch this because, yeah, I don't think things went as planned. Let me know what you think.
Did it start to move? Which way did it move?
It went that way.
That's what I thought. I mean, there's not a lot to it. If you pushed on it, I think it would. Okay. Pushed on it, I think it would go that way.
Let's try to. I'm afraid you're going to slide it off there, and then it's going to fly back on top of you. We can try to. Let's try to grab it on this side.
Nope. Watch out.
Oh, it's falling. Let's just stop and talk about this for a minute. Like I said, it didn't go as planned. He was hoping it would go the other way to the right. It didn't. It went to the left. Once I figured out what he was doing and once I saw what he was doing, there were so many vines up in this tree. You can't really see it. It's hard to tell in the video, but there's so many vines up in this tree. I thought, man, that thing is pulling it the wrong direction. I went over there, I look at his cut, and I'm thinking, if he cuts that, it's just going to fall back on top of him. So I was a little nervous, a little concerned. Before you know it, the thing falls down. Luckily, nobody was there. Nobody was in the way. He got out of there in time. But, hey, if you're cutting trees down, be super careful and definitely don't do something like this. This is definitely a fail. But I wanted to include that in the video so you guys would know, if you're cutting a tree, make sure you know what you're doing. And on top of that, make sure that there's nothing pulling on that tree one way or the other. The wind was blowing like crazy too on top of that. But we got the tree down. I was not even paying attention to the camera after this. So the video cut off right here and my battery ran out. And this is basically the end of the video. But I'm going to show you a before real quick and run you through that. And then after I show you the before, then we can check it out and see what it looks like afterwards. But all this debris laying, on the ground, we knew this was going to happen. We planned on this happening, and it's just something that, like I said in the beginning of the video, he wanted all this brush taken down. He has the tools, the hand tools to get in here and clean it all up. So if it were me and I was hired to do the entire job, I would have came in here, I would have taken all the brush down, and then on top of that, I would have hauled all this off that's left on the ground that you see. So don't think I'm just doing a half job. This is what the customer wanted. This is what they requested, and that's what I ended up doing. So got the job done. What do you guys think?